Married men are too sweet. Never allow his wife to stand before your happiness.
Jessica was 23 years old when she learned that being the other woman felt like winning. She had never meant to fall into it. Or perhaps she had. Perhaps she had been looking for someone exactly like Ben, 42, wealthy, generous with his credit card, and even more generous with his lies. He drove a black Mercedes and wore watches that cost more than her monthly rent. He took her to Paris for a long weekend and brought her a handbag that made her colleagues gasp. And every time he handed her something expensive, he handed her something else too. A story about his wife. She doesn't appreciate me, he would say, swirling whiskey in a crystal glass. She never has. You're different, Jessie. You understand me. Jessica believed him. Of course she believed him. She wanted to. She was proud to be his side chick. She told her closest friends in hushed, excited whispers. She posted nothing on social media. Ben was careful about that. But in her mind, she was the only one he truly loved. The wife was just an obstacle, a paperwork problem, a sad woman in a big house who didn't know she had already lost. You're going to leave her, right? Jessica would ask, usually after he had given her something beautiful. Ben would sigh. He would run a hand through his graying hair and look at her with those tired, kind eyes. It's complicated, Jessie. I will leave, but it's not easy. It's not as easy as you think. Months passed, then a year, then two. Jessica still asked. Ben still promised, and the wife remained. One evening, bored and stressless, while Ben was working late, Jessica found herself scrolling through the wife's social media profile. She did this often, studying the woman's face, her family photos, her ordinary life. It made Jessica feel superior. Look at this plain woman, she would think. She doesn't even know I exist. But that night, a new post stopped her cold. The wife stood next to a brand new Range Rover, white, gleaming, the kind of car that costs more than most people's annual salary. The caption read, "So grateful to my amazing husband. He always knows how to surprise me." Jessica stared at the screen. Her hands began to shake. Ben had never bought her anything close to that. A handbag here and there, a weekend trip here and there. Yes, but a Range Rover? He had never ever offered to help with her car payment, and her car was a beat up Honda with a cracked bumper. For the first time, the truth pierced through the beautiful bubble Ben had built around her. Ben actually loved his wife. He loved her enough to buy her a car that costs a fortune. He loved her enough to stay year after year, despite every promise he had made to Jessica. Jessica felt something crack inside her chest. It was not heartbreak, it was humiliation. She had spent 2 years thinking she was winning. She had spent 2 years believing she was better than the wife. And all along, she had been nothing but a secret, a diversion, a hobby. If he won't leave her, Jessica whispered to her phone screen, I'll make him leave her. She opened the wife's message inbox and she wrote everything. I'm dating your husband. His name is Ben. We'd been together for 2 years. Here are pictures. Here are receipts. Here is proof. She attached photos of herself and Ben, some innocent, some not. She included screenshots of his texts, the ones where he called her baby and my love and I miss you. Then she pressed send and waited for the world to explode. The wife's response came within an hour. Thank you for informing me. That was it. No anger, no tears, no drama, no dramatic confrontation. Jessica refreshed the page 5 times, convinced she had missed something. But the message stayed the same, polite, brief, and utterly, devastatingly in its calm. She had expected the wife to crumble. Instead, the wife dismissed her like a telemarketer. 3 days later, Ben showed up at Jessica's apartment. She had never seen him like this. His face was red, his jaw was tight, his voice, usually as smooth and reassuring, was a low growl of fury. Why would you tell my wife? Why would you send those pictures? Are you out of your mind, Jessica? Jessica had never seen him this angry before. Ben was always charming, always in control. Now he looked like a stranger. I'm sorry, she stammered, tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, Ben. I just want you to leave her. I wanted us to be together. You ruined my marriage, he shouted. But Jessica cried harder, and she begged, and she apologized, and eventually Ben stopped yelling. He dropped onto her couch with his head in his hands, and Jessica sat beside him, still weeping, still apologizing, already pretending that this was all a terrible misunderstanding. A few days later, Ben arrived at her apartment with suitcases. She kicked me out, he said. His voice was hollow. My family knows. My friends knows. They're all disappointed in me. I have nowhere else to go. Jessica opened her arms. She pulled him inside. She told him it would be okay, that they had each other now, that this was finally the beginning they had been waiting for. And deep down, where she would not look too closely, she was happy. She finally had him all to herself. She cooked for him, she cleaned for him, she washed his clothes and made his coffee and rubbed his shoulders when he came home stressed. She wanted to prove that she was better than the wife, more devoted, more understanding, more worthy of his love. For a few weeks, it felt like enough. Then the divorce papers came. Ben sat at the kitchen table, staring at the documents like they were a death sentence. He told Jessica he didn't want to sign. He told her he wasn't ready. Jessica sat across from him and spoke gently. Close this door, Ben. It's okay to close this chapter. Then you can start a new chapter with me. Eventually, he signed. But the next chapter was not what Jessica had imagined. The wife kept the house. The children needed to stay in the same school district. The judge ruled, and Ben was the one who had broken the marriage. Jessica had secretly imagined herself moving into that beautiful house, decorating the guest room, finally tasting the life she had envied from afar. Instead, The wife got to stay, and Ben got an eviction notice. Then came the financial settlement. Half of everything Ben owned, half his savings, half his investments, half his retirements, went to the woman he had betrayed. Ben was no longer wealthy. He was comfortable, maybe, but not wealthy. And comfortable, Jessica quickly learned, did not pay regular shopping trips. Comfortable did not pay for fancy restaurants every weekend. Comfortable meant counting pennies. Comfortable meant cooking at home every single night because eating out was now a luxury. Jessica found herself in the grocery store, comparing prices, putting items back on the shelf. She found herself saying no to things she used to buy without thinking. This was not the life she had signed up for. Worse, Ben could no longer afford to cover all the bills. Jessica had to go back to work. She had not worked in 2 years. She had forgotten how exhausting it was. Waking up early, rushing to make breakfast, commuting in traffic, sitting under fluorescent lights for 8 hours, commuting back, and still finding the energy to cook and clean for a man who spent his evenings scrolling on his phone. She would come home tired. She would cook anyway. She would clean anyway, and Ben would not look up from his screen. She started to wonder, did she really win? When Ben was married, she had only seen the exciting parts of him. The hotel rooms, the vacations, the man who showed up fresh and charming and ready to spoil her. She had never seen him grumpy. She had never seen him stressed. She had never seen him leave dirty laundry on the floor or complain about the dinner she spent an hour making. Now she saw it all, and she did not like what she saw. If you are still listening, that means that you are enjoying the story. Please support the channel by subscribing, liking, and commenting so that the channel can grow. Your support will be greatly appreciated, and it will motivate me to create more great stories. This is not the end of the story. Stay tuned for part 2 to find out what happens next. Do you agree with how Ben's wife responded to Jessica after she learned about her husband's affair? Would you have done things differently? Which side are you on? Are you on the wife's side? Are you on Jessica's side? And who is your favorite character of this story?
You're a cheater!
Are you surprised?